Hi there, good evening, and thanks for joining me in this fresh edition of the program, The Insight, on Equinox Television. It took just few hours for members of the National Executive Committee of the NEC, the Social Democratic Front Party, to deliberate on Article 18.8 used on Jean-Michel Ninji, SDF Littoral Regional Bureau dissolve, and fresh elections will be held in the days ahead. We shall be discussing that in this edition of the program with my guest tonight. And also in this edition of the program, students march on street in Bamenda and Yaoundé and other state universities in Cameroon to say thank you to President Paul Biya for pledging to provide them 500,000 laptops. And the biggest question is, the students who march on street of Bamenda, Yaoundé and other regions, do they represent the entire hundreds of thousands of students that are in state and private universities in Cameroon? That is a question. Join me in this edition of The Insight. I will be right back, but first, we have this teaser, the press review of the day. It is read by our reporter, Babila Jonathan. He has the TI press review. I will be right back.
CRTV General Managers arrest OC Joshua's alleged candidature for the SDF presidency. Crusade for Laurent Gbagbo's freedom. Southwest Chiefs Conference presidential election turns hostile. Plus, Bamenda government delegate paints a bleak picture of a neglected city. These are some of the major news highlights of the week. According to Monday's issue of the Guardian Post, the arrest of Amadou Vamouké, former general manager of the Cameroon Radio Television CRTV, signals danger for officials under investigations for alleged financial crimes. The Star indicates that two former general managers of the CRTV are now in jail. Amadou Vamouké has joined his predecessor, Professor Gervais Mendoze, at the Konengi Maximum Security Prison in Yaoundé. The present CRTV general manager, Charles Ndongo, is advised in this article to put on his thinking cap. The midweek issue of the Guardian Post highlights the reaction of the Social Democratic Front National Chairman John Frundi to OC Joshua's alleged candidature. In the post, OC Joshua strikes back at political detractors over what he calls malicious insinuations concerning his alleged candidature for the SDF presidency. OC Joshua is quoted in this news article saying pitting him against Frundi will not work and that his priority is to reorganize the party in the littoral region. According to the Scoop, the SDF has launched a crusade for the liberation of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo, with the National Executive Committee resolving to secure 10,000 of the 22 million signatures needed for Gbagbo's freedom. The Post Weekender reports that the Southwest Chiefs Conference presidential race has taken a hostile twist, with Faku chiefs at daggers drawn over candidates. Chief Etina Monon of Great Support and Boya Chief Samuel Epupa Ekum stormed out of Reconciliation Confab, while in the Northwest region, Fons, Teche and Chafah are yet to bury their hatchets. Both are in a power tussle. In an exclusive interview published in Tuesday's issue of the Guardian Post, Bamenda government's delegate Vincent Dumunji paints a bleak picture of what he calls a neglected city. He says government provides 350 million francs CFA, but the city council spends over 650 million francs CFA to clean the city, and that not less than 50 million francs CFA is needed to tar streets in Bamenda. And that's all we had time for in this edition of The Inside. I'll be back next Sunday with more news from the papers. Stay with us.
The press review there as seen by Babila Jonathan. You're watching The Inside on Equinox Television. My guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, he is the former mayor of the Douala 4 municipality. He is a candidate for SDF Littoral. As far as the presidency is concerned, my guest tonight is a member of the National Executive Committee of the Social Democratic Front Party. Welcome, John Dangle KUMASE. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Hansen. Thank you for inviting me, to give me this opportunity to talk about the party in the littoral. Thank you, televiewers, we hope you are going to enjoy us on the tribune.
All right, we hope it's going to be a nice evening in the Insight on Equinox Television. Now you are just fresh from the National Executive Meeting of the Social Democratic Front Party that took place in Tarikong, the headquarters of the Social Democratic Front Party. Now, many resolutions were arrived at, we shall be discussing in the course of this program, but the first that went viral on social media and much talked about even on the press is the suspension of the bureau in Littoral region. That is what you've been waiting for.
It came a bit late. It's not a suspension. It is the dissolution of the Littoral Regional Bureau. It has been long overdue because the mandate of the dissolved bureau came to an end, expired in 2013. And by the constitution of the party, the National Organizing Secretary, according to sections 1313, was supposed to reorganize the electoral districts and also organize the region, that is, preside over the regional conference. But unfortunately, he encountered a lot of difficulties from the regional president, who said he was not performing his duties well according to his own aspirations. I want to recall that before the expiration of the mandate of the dissolved bureau, a number of militants in the littoral had petitioned the National Executive Committee asking for the application of sections 18.8 in 2013 because they saw the party on a downward trend under the presidency of Honorable Jean-Michel Ninche. But since the petition came almost towards the end of the mandate of the Bureau, NEC decided that the National Organizing Secretary should go ahead to reorganize the electoral districts and then call for a regional conference to renew the executive. Since this 2013, we had expected this decision because Honorable Ninche did everything to block the regional conference where he was to be voted out. You cannot imagine that at the end of a mandate, 2013, and we are in 2016, almost 4 years, the party was unable to reorganize one structure.
But why was the party unable? Almost 4 years. One man against the whole party, or more than the NEC?
Well, the party, every NEC meeting received reports from the National Organizing Secretary. And these reports were always contested by Honorable Ninche. And I think with the support of some barons of the party, Ninche was always having his way through. So it is not that the party was unable to take this decision earlier.
So it's a matter of camps that were created.
There were certain forces that stood behind Ninche and continuously tried to block this decision that NEC was to take, which was to come earlier than this. But I think that, as you know, there is a time for everything. The time came when the obstruction from Honorable Ninche, taking into consideration various destructive activities that he was carrying out for his own self and personal interest, NEC thought that enough was enough.
Several elections that were held in the respective districts, subdivisions and divisions have been cancelled for the past years, and even meetings that were supposed to be held here in Douala were banned by the SDO, and many saw the hand of Ninche in it.
Yes, as I said, the National Organizing Secretary renewed almost 3/4 of the electoral districts, which were validated by NEC on the 30th of August 2014. And there were 8 electoral districts that were remaining to be renewed, and then the 5 divisional coordinations, and to now call for a regional conference. Honorable Ninche continued protesting that the electoral districts that were renewed were not transparent, and that they were not, the elections were not equitable. So NEC decided to adopt the report of the National Organizing Secretary as at that date, and then now put in a different commission which was headed by Honorable Senator Tsumulu Zhang, as from the 14th of November 2014.
That's putting away the Asamgu.
Putting away Asamgu, since Honorable Ninche was always complaining. And on the arrival of Senator Tsumulu, it was still the same thing. Tsumulu started with the renewal of the electoral districts that were remaining. And Honorable Jean-Michel Ninche still complained. He still cried foul, and even threatened Tsumulu when he was coming here on a certain date to renew the divisional coordination of the Wuri. So Honorable Tsumulu had to make a backward turn to Yaoundé. And this continued until, surprisingly, to please him, or accepted what he was clamoring for, that the electoral districts organized by the National Organizing Secretary were not properly organized. Honorable Tsumulu came out with a program to renew 16 electoral districts, amongst which were 8 were those that were already renewed by the National Organizing Secretary, and then the 8 that were remaining. And it is these electoral districts that were being renewed, and all the time there was confusion, trouble. And then Honorable Ninche took upon himself and wrote to the senior divisional officer for Wuri that only him and him alone can declare in an electoral district conference. And as a result of that, electoral district presidents in the Wuri could not declare their own electoral district conferences, even to choose the venue. It was Honorable Ninche who declared and chose the venues.
Now, how has it affected the party in Little Road?
It has affected the party in the sense that you cannot come to an electoral district as a regional president and you decide to take over the functions of that electoral district executive. So many of the electoral district presidents felt frustrated, and you cannot work in frustration. And this continued killing the party within the field. He didn't only remain in the littoral, in the Wuri division, he extended his Ayatollah powers up to all the divisions and all the electoral districts. So for any electoral district to organize a conference in the Mungo, in the Senegal Maritime, in the Ekum, it was Honorable Ninche who declared the public manifestation and chose the venue for that. So this caused a lot of frustration and confusion in the party, and the party was dying. And
he did that for almost 4 years now. Now, many persons have the opinion that there were a lot of camps, and that the fight took an anthropological and sociological and even tribal direction. The Bamileke against the Douala, against the Anglophones. What is your reaction on that?
I think that there was a certain time some supporters of Honorable Ninche thought that a Bamileke man to be replaced was supposed to be replaced by a Bamileke, but this was quickly brushed away by many of the members of the party, because when you see in the group of reflection, the think tank that we have, the majority of the people there are Bamilekes. So they said that the Honorable Ninche should not hide behind tribalism to destroy the party. So they waved that aside. And also about the Sawas, yes, it's true that sometimes some people take certain actions and regret after. Take, for example, today, Mayor Lawton, who in 2013 found that all the list leaders in the legislative elections were all Bamilekes. So he decided to look for a Sawa, and he had no Sawa on the field. He had to look from Manfe to Campo, which is being said that from Manfe to Campo are all Sawas. That is why now he went and met Honorable Osi. And Honorable Osi now headed the list in Douala 1 for the legislative elections. So today sometimes Mayor Lawton says that this call for somebody to come from Dian and be a candidate here because his base was in Dian was because of tribal tendencies that he had, that he couldn't see how all the leaders of the list in 2013 will all be Bamilekes in the whole of Gure division.
Okay.
So these are some of the things that the party sometimes grapples with.
And those are some of the ingredients that televiewers might not know that you've just revealed here, for a better understanding of the root of this problem in SDF Littoral. Now you are going in as a candidate. You are going as a candidate, definitely in the weeks ahead that elections will be held in Littoral presidency. What vision do you have for SDF Littoral to come back on its feet again? The once vibrant SDF Littoral.
Before I say something about the vision that I have, let me give you a small genesis of how Ninche came to be the president of the Littoral region. In 2005, there was a power struggle too between the former president Diallo Bakai and Mukuri Molema. And this took also more than a year. So we decided to look for a neutral candidate. That is when we decided to propose Honorable Jean-Michel Ninche as a candidate. And our vision was that we were going to work together like an executive committee. But unfortunately, when he was voted, he put ahead his personal interest, his personal ambition, and never was even going down to see whether the electoral districts were functioning. For the past more than 13 years that he has been the regional president for Littoral, he has never taught the region, even one time. If he made some visits to some isolated electoral districts like in the Mungo, he had never set his foot in the Sanaga Maritime, he had never gone to Nkam, he has even in the Vuri here, he has never visited an electoral district in the Vuri.
But he was re-elected in 2009.
He was re-elected in 2009, and I want to say here and clear that he himself knows that when that election, that conference was going on, I personally put off a motion to ask for the postponement of that conference because the delegates who came for that conference were not statutory, and his elections in 2009 were not really statutory. People who hadn't statutory powers came and voted for him in 2009, and that is why after the end of this mandate we wanted to see that those who will come for the regional conference in 2013 were supposed to be from the electoral districts as defined by the constitution. Now he saw that with that he couldn't go through. Now let me come back to my vision. My vision for this party as one of the first militants in Littoral is that the Littoral is a very fertile ground for the SDF. But because of bad management, bad follow-up, no inspiration from the regional president. So I think that with my experience as an electoral district president from 1991, I have the experience to get this party, be at the helm of the party at the regional level, and try to reorganize it. And what am I going to do if I'm elected? I'm going to, first of all, rally all the camps. I'm going to rally them so that we can be able to put aside the hatred and the division that Honorable Nincha has implanted among the militants of the party, and make sure that we come together, reconcile ourselves, and then we go ahead to work on the field. I will be a field regional president that is going to the electoral districts, mobilizing them, encouraging them, giving them the support, the moral support, the political support, and building their aspirations for the mission for which the founding fathers of this party launched the SDF.
I believe you still have followers. You are the former mayor of Douala 4 Council just in 2013, just close to 4 years now. You still have followers in the SDF Littoral that can see you up.
Yes, you must know that my candidature was not just from my own personal decision. Comrades of the party came to me and asked me to accept to salvage the party here in the Littoral. And that is why I am going in as a candidate for the reflection group, the think tank group. They give me all their support. So I think that I have followers from all the electoral districts in the Littoral region.
Mm-hmm. And going for presidency is announcing your comeback, John Dangle KUMASE, as far as Douala Council is concerned, Douala 4 Council is concerned.
We had never lost confidence that we will reconquer the Council of Douala 4. But the elections at the regional level are not really linked to the conquering of the Douala 4 Council. We know that Douala 4 Council is one of the electoral districts where you have a council. I will not only conquer the council in Douala 4, I will work in order that we can conquer more councils in the Littoral region.
And maybe especially Douala, which is,
Yes. You see, what has been lacking in Douala is leadership. What has lacked in the Littoral is leadership. You cannot find a president who sits in his office and then functions from telephone. He calls people over telephone and institutes enmity, hatred, wherever he finds that an electoral district president is not of his choice. Not because he hates him, but because he, Honorable Nincha, hates contributions, positive, and sometimes he considers them negative contributions. But as a president, you have to bring in everybody. There are those who will not just be for you, but you cannot send them away. But what Nincha was doing is that he tries to send everybody who did not agree with him away, and even went as far as appointing electoral district presidents where the candidate who won in that electoral district was not of his taste, or was not, according to him, supporting him. He will appoint and write to the divisional officer that the electoral district president of this electoral district is such and such a person. He did that in Bare, he did that in Konsamba 1, he did that even dismissing the electoral district presidents, as you just mentioned, from declaring meetings of their own electoral district manifestation.
When one year all this, we have the impression that there's money in it.
Well,
is it just fighting for nothing? There should be some cash somewhere to gain.
I don't know until I get there, because I don't know what his intentions are. I think the only thing you can put that to him, because he has hung on the president of the region for more than 4 years, illegitimately and illegally. Therefore, he must be getting something from it, which I don't know.
All right, away from SDF Litorono, let's talk SDF national and even international, because after the NEC meeting that ended in Bamenda last weekend, there were some resolutions, but also discussed during the NEC meeting, some youths are clamoring for a change of power. They want Nijon Frundi to send in Honorable OC as the candidate for SDF come 2018 presidential elections, but the SDF chairman said the youth should begin from grassroots before coming up. What is your take on that?
Yes, this press instigated articles had become a nuisance to the militants of the SDF, because the SDF has a procedure. There are procedures of voting the national chairman of the party and voting the candidate for presidential elections any year that there are presidential elections. And this procedure is enshrined in the constitution and in internal regulations of the convention. These two positions are always voted in the convention. So, if there are youths who aspire to become the national chairman or presidential candidates, they must work to respect these provisions. And the chairman was very clear about it during the last NEC meeting, that when they launched the party in 1990, most of those who came in were youths, and they are there. Some of them have worked and they are still there. Those who came in later, as they have the chance to work on the field and rise, because they have to work in a way to be seen, so that when the convention comes, they put in their candidatures, they can be voted. It's not a question of Nijon Frundi, appointing somebody to replace him, as some people think that he should give the youths a chance. The national chairman made it very clear that he is that father who knows that at any time nature is going to take a decision. If it is not physically, or the party can take a decision to say that, okay, we need a change. It's not the chairman who will decide on his own to do it. And he called on the youths to work hard so that they should be seen on the field working. Okay. So it was not a question of the chairman saying that the youths don't have a place. They have a place through the hard work that they are going to carry on now, to rise up.
Now, John Dangle KUMASE, between you and I, who do you go for? OC or the chairman? Is it time for the chairman to go out?
I'm saying that there is a procedure for that.
But if you were asked to choose between OC and the chairman come 2018 presidential elections?
It is not an individual choice. It's not KUMASE's choice. It is the choice of the convention. If the convention is convened and there is the question of renewing the posts in the national executive, the delegates will decide. And most of the time, these decisions are secret. So you cannot find somebody coming to say, like me, saying that I am for Frundi or I am for OC. That is completely out of place.
But is it time for powers to change hands at the level of SDF 26 years after?
When I look at the constitution of the party, I don't see where time was set out. You see, people try to make some type of confusion between national institutions like the president of the Republic and the president of a political party. It is the national constitution, Cameroon constitution, which was amended in 2008. You know the consequences of that amendment, which had made a term that the president of the Republic serves for it was at that time 7 years, renewable once. But in the SDF constitution, it is said that the president of the party can still be revoted as long as the militants, as long as the convention delegates so desire.
Can still be a natural candidate.
The word natural candidate is not in the vocabulary of the SDF. Natural candidate is somewhere. We don't know it in the SDF vocabulary. So we think that that word is not a democratic word. Somebody who is natural means therefore that there is no democracy in that party.
All right, it was a pleasure having the first segment of this program, The Insight on Equinox Television. We shall be right back, and in the second part of this program, we shall be talking about laptops that have been pledged by President of the Republic to 500,000 youth. But first, let's have the interviews of the week.
Youth and women are those tracts of the society who really contribute, who can really enhance the political participation, and why not legitimate the results of the elections after 2018 upcoming elections. And the reason is that when we look to statistics, women are more than 51% of the population, and youth also, they are so representative of the population of our country.
The breast milk is the best food for the baby. Naturally, the baby's digestive tract is adapted to digest the mother's milk, not cow's milk. Even though we have lots of them that have been maternized, like it is indicated, but there are also other inconveniences. You have to spend money that more often than not people don't have that money to spend, so they go into all malpractices. Whereas breast milk alone is sufficient up to 6 months of age. Intensive exclusive breastfeeding, which simply means only the breast milk and on demand when baby wants to breastfeed. No question of programming and timing. The baby will breastfeed every 2 hours or every 3 hours. No, it's exclusive, intensive, 24 hours.
Benefits both for Cameroon and for the European Union are expected, obviously, from this agreement, which is a sovereign agreement between the two parties. And in particular, the exemption from custom tax will benefit to the operators, in particular in view of industrialization.
From the interviews of the week, we have the week in retrospect, major events that made news during the week, and immediately after that, we shall be in the second and the last part of this program.
Work has come to a halt again at the Yaoundé-Douala dual carriageway at Lobo, as locals are wailing with grief over payment of indemnities. Speaking with pain in their voices, some locals say the payment of indemnities has some bumps and bruises and are demanding some clarity from public authorities.
La personne que moi j'ai placée qui est derrière moi, son nom sort. L'autre, son nom ne sort pas. Les Maliens de l'homme ont des noms.
The row of outrage follows alleged fictitious names on the list of indemnities. 200 names have reportedly disappeared from a list of 500 persons who deserved indemnities. Locals say they want clarity on the issue.
News of the suicide spread like wildfire as family members, friends and loved ones gathered in the compound of the now late Philomène Tassé to mourn her. The mother of 5, who has been described as a loving mother and dedicated wife, didn't leave room for any suspicion, as she had remained normal until about 8 p.m. the night she killed herself.
The headquarters of the Association of Cameroonian Entrepreneurs, known by its French acronym as GCAM, Wednesday morning, a few executive members could be seen going in and out of the conference hall. The atmosphere here is solemn, following the confirmation of the passing away of the president of the association, André Fotso, after a protracted illness in France. Members of the Executive Council, led by the second vice president, Henri Fosso, met to deliberate and discuss on the way forward of the association.
Indiscipline and the non-respect of rules governing the Social Democratic Front SDF political party are some of the reasons highlighted to back the sanction slammed on the Jean-Michel Nincho-led Regional Bureau by the National Executive Committee. Besides these reasons, some have attributed the sanction to power tussle between candidates for the regional presidency. One of the candidates in the Littoral Regional Bureau election, Celestin Jamen, considers the sanction as a proof of democracy in the SDF.
Il faut fêter.
The Special Criminal Court in Yaoundé, it is alleged, wants Esimi Menye to account for 9 billion francs CFA, money which was reportedly snatched when he was charged with restructuring the Amity Bank after liquidation. Esimi Menye has been grilled twice at the Special Criminal Court over the matter, and we learned he all along denied any wrong. He once disclosed that the Amity Bank never had such a huge amount. Tombi Aroko Sidiki is accused of forgery and usurpation of title. Accusations levied on the president of the Cameroon Football Federation by Abdurrahman Amadou, president of Echua Filant of Garoua, Emmanuel Loga and Bel Joseph Antoine. The case file lodged at the Mfundi Court of First Instance did not come up for hearing Thursday, as Tombi is reportedly on mission out of the country. The matter is linked to the election last year of Tombi Aroko as president of Fika Food. The trio are challenging the election based on a verdict of the National Olympic Committee last November.
Few weeks after Meji Yawa Bakari, governor of the Far North region, called on the reopening of schools and major centers, Joseph Beti Asomo, Minister for Defense, is in the region, a region which has been in the headlines for years now. If activities of insurgent group Boko Haram have reduced, there is need for vigilance. Joseph Beti Asomo reiterated this during a visit in the regional capital Marwa. In a security meeting, he told top officials and military heads in the region to keep the fight and never give up. He saluted efforts made by soldiers and the local vigilante committees who are used as auxiliaries to the trained men in uniform.
Trade barriers between Cameroon and the EU are supposed to be dismantled. The dismantling of trade barriers, economic experts say, is more of a threat than an opportunity to Cameroon. As Cameroon, they claim, will lose billions of francs CFA to the deal. About 80% of the EU goods will be free from duties entering Cameroon. At the head office of the upgrading of enterprises in Cameroon, we sought to know whether Cameroon will be able to stand the strong European competition. We were told that Cameroon is still struggling to upgrade 600 enterprises to stand the strong European competition.
You're watching The Inside on Equinox Television. My guest tonight, John Ndangle KUMASE, former mayor of Douala 4 municipality. He is a candidate for SDF Littoral Presidency. He is equally a member of the National Executive Committee of the Social Democratic Front Party, Cameroon's frontline opposition party. And with him tonight, we're looking at some of the resolutions arrived at in the recent NEC meeting that took place in Tarikong, Bamenda, the headquarters of the SDF party. Now, even before we talk about computers to university students, there was one aspect of the NEC meeting. About 10,000 signatures will be compiled for the release of Laurent Gbagbo by the SDF party.
Yes, the National Executive Committee, through the initiative of the national chairman, His Excellency Ni John Frundi, is championing a petition for the release of the former Ivorian president Laurent Gbagbo. And I think no number of signatures were decided by the NEC meeting. We need even more than 1 million signatures. And I think that was an initiative which is laudable, because this son of Africa, who is languishing in The Hague for crimes that they charge him of, that they cannot, the international court cannot hear the case, because to the SDF, we think that that case is sort of colonial manipulation, because we know the stance of President Gbagbo as far as neocolonialism was concerned. So I think all Cameroonians of goodwill, Cameroonians who preach justice, must be able to stand up and say a word and sign this petition. So we, in the electoral districts, we are the ones following up these signatures, and I think that in the whole of Littoral, we're going to get more than the 10,000 signatures you're talking on, not only for Cameroon, but in the Littoral only, we can get more than, because we think that there are people imbued with the spirit of justice in the Littoral region.
All right. Now, the SDF party equally lambasted on the pledge computers, 500,000 by the head of state to university students, both in public and private universities. Now, the SDF party or the NEC meeting described it as poisoned gifts and misplaced priority.
The National Executive Committee examined this type of gift by the head of state. That is, the head of state wakes up from his bed one morning and decides to donate 75 billion francs to youths in the form of computers. It is left to know whether this amount, 75 billion francs, was budgeted for in the national budget of 2016. But the National Executive Committee thought that if the head of state intended to help young students to get computers, it was not a matter of being in a haste. Studies would have been made to see if they could build an industry in Cameroon where these computers should be manufactured, because with about 30 to 35 billion francs, we think that a proper industry for the manufacture of computers, not only for the use of students, but for most youths, most Cameroonians, it would have been at least a laudable initiative. But now to go and negotiate for a loan from China, and then the money is going back to China for China to produce 500,000 laptops, which will be given to students as personal gifts, not as institutional gifts. That is to say that each student in leaving university carries it away. It therefore implies that when this generation of students will leave the university, there will be no computer again in the university for other students who follow to continue to benefit from that. So the National Executive Committee thought that if an industry was created where computers will be produced year in and year out, it means that the future generation that will follow this batch of students who will benefit from these computers will continuously be getting their own laptops, except that the head of state will every year spend 75 billion francs to give computers to students.
These are loans that are so expected to be paid in 20 years to the Chinese Exim Bank.
You see, this is very, very embarrassing to the youths themselves who are going to receive these computers, because they are the ones who will pay for tomorrow. Because in 20 years, you know, the head of state gave us 20 years. We don't know how many years have expired of those 20 years now. So he might not be there when the young people who will be benefiting from these computers will be paying this debt. So we thought that to give employment to these youths, an industry would have been set up in Cameroon here than to get a loan from China, Exim Bank, and send it back again to China for Chinese to get employment in their country so that we shall be paying it. So I think that the National Executive Committee took a very firm position on this by calling on the government, especially the head of state, to always not be allowed to be derailed by people who negotiate this type of loans for ulterior motives.
Now, you said a while ago that youths are embarrassed, but I want to tell you that youths might not be embarrassed, because most of them march on street in Bamenda, Yaoundé, Marwa to say thank you to head of state. We saw on TV screens there were effigies of the head of state, a placard thanking President Paul Biya. Youths are happy with this gesture.
Are you telling me that those placards were written by those youths? You know that the informal sector of the motorcycle riders today in Cameroon have become a time bomb. The way they can reorganize this sector is becoming a very worrisome affair, because in 2000 and I cannot remember that year, when may her soul rest in peace, Madame Foning gathered a number of motorcycle riders to go and march on the streets of Yaoundé, to go and send messages of support to the head of state for having, during one of his speeches, asked that they should be allowed to carry out their activities. So Madame Foning decided to do that. It was not the motorcycle riders themselves who organized to go to Yaoundé. They were carried by our famous Madame Foning, and
that's 8 years old now.
Yes, and it is the same thing with the.
Are you saying that the students were manipulated to march on street?
I think those students are happy because after they leave the university with the computers, give them food on the table. So I think that the students, in my opinion, are not happy because most of them who leave university don't have jobs. So giving them computers is a sort of campaign that does not say its name.
So it has a political tone?
It has a political tone. It's like...
So who is campaigning? President Paul Biya or his close aides?
They always try to make everybody think that everything in Cameroon is President Paul Biya, but I don't think that President Paul Biya sat down and wrote a project that it is important to give computers to 500,000 students. Some people must have written this project and went to him and cornered him to accept it. I don't think that it is a thing that was studied. These are campaign strategies that need to be condemned. You cannot use taxpayers' money, 75 billion, to give as a gift to people. What do you call corruption? You know, in this country, we say we are fighting corruption. But you see, appointment to positions are considered like corruption. Somebody who is appointed to a post of responsibility automatically becomes a CPDM And then they are fighting corruption. How do you fight that type of corruption? Moral corruption. Corruption by appointment. How do you fight it? Because tell me, among those who are in government or in corporations, he who is not dancing the tune of the CPDM. But some of these people were not CPDM. I know many of the people who were SDF. Immediately they are appointed, they become CPDM. And these appointments, sometimes they are not even consulted. So if you don't become a CPDM by corruption, by appointment, you cannot remain there.
Okay. John Dangle KUMASE, former mayor of Douala 4 municipality. There are two things that I've gathered from your political reactions. You'll be making a spectacular comeback as far as the mayoral position of Douala 4 Council is concerned, and you are ready to grab the position of president as far as SDF Littoral is concerned. Quickly before we go.
Yes, you see, we should make one thing clear. When the founding fathers of the SDF launched the SDF, it was not for people to be voted to positions of mayor or parliamentarian. We were aiming at changing this country through the presidency of this country. So, as I'm fighting to become the regional president, it's not only eyeing the mayorship, I am eyeing a region where it could be prepared to stand out distinct for the presidential elections that are coming in 2018. Because if we don't make a change here, we will have the same poor results that we had in 2011.
All right. So it was a pleasure having you tonight in this edition of the program.
It has been my pleasure. So I want to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I am always available to Equinox Television.
And Equinox Television is always available to all parties, all members of the parties who have their own view to give on the program. It was a pleasure being with you equally, ladies and gentlemen, in today's edition of the program, The Inside on Equinox Television. Take a rendezvous next week Sunday, same time, 6:30 p.m., same channel, Equinox Television. Good night.